Hey everybody, welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. Our next live Jimmy Dore Show, October 12th. Special guest, Abby Martin. I'm here with Ron Placone. Ron, how are you?
Hey, Jimmy.
Ron's going on a tour in November.
Yeah, November 2nd, Sacramento, 3rd, San Francisco, 17th, Santa Barbara, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the 23rd. RonPlacone.com for tickets.
All right, so that's in November. We're talking about it in August.
Exciting. No time like the present.
So the Democrats made some reforms, and now they're touting them. So I was over at the Democrat Twitter page today. It says, watch, we just passed the strongest reforms to our presidential nominating process in decades because we're committed to making 2020 the most transparent election ever. Here's what the reforms look like. And so they have this video of this nice lady, and she says all these. Here we go. I'm going to play it all the way through because people get mad. They always say, Jimmy, you stop and start it. So I'm going to play it all the way through. It's only 1 minute and 36 seconds long. You can see right there. And then we'll go back and stop and start it, okay? Everybody happy?
Big news. The DNC just enacted the biggest reforms to our presidential nominating process in decades. These reforms will grow the Democratic Party, increase voting participation, rebuild trust, and put our next Democratic presidential nominee in the strongest position possible to win. There are 3 big changes we've made, and here's the deal on them. Number 1. We're ensuring the will of the grassroots determines our party's nominee by reducing the role that superdelegates have over our presidential nominating process. Now, superdelegates will refrain from voting on the first presidential nominating ballot, empowering the grassroots and removing any doubt about respecting the will of the people. Number 2. We're working to get more states that hold primaries and states that hold caucuses to make them more accessible. For some states, caucuses are the only method available to allocate national convention delegates. But caucuses can present challenges for voters, such as seniors, shift workers, students, members of the military, and parents of young children who are pressed for time due to other responsibilities. Our reforms recommend that states take steps to make caucuses as accessible as possible, including offering absentee voting for voters who can't make the caucus in person, and better processes for tracking ballots in case a recount is needed. And the third reform, and this is a big one, we want to make sure that everyone who wants to vote can vote. So we're recommending that all states offer same-day voter registration and the ability to register as a Democrat to vote in Democratic primaries. The DNC is proud of this progress we've made, and we're committed to making 2020 our most transparent and effective presidential nominating process ever. The reason why is simple, because when more Democrats vote, Democrats win. And when Democrats win, good things happen to people.
Yes, good things happen to people, like the repeal of Glass-Steagall, the crash of the economy. 2 wars going to 7. The bank's getting bigger while we kick out 5.1 million families. You mean those kind of good things? Hey, union cops crack the heads of peaceful protesters at Occupy from coast to coast as the Democratic president turns his head. Hey, they took the union away from the teachers in Wisconsin as the Democratic president turns his head. Hey, the Democrats just joined with Trump and Mitch McConnell to fast track judges at lifetime appointments. You mean those kind of good things? Hey, the Democrats just joined with the Republicans to deregulate Wall Street again. Hey, the Democrats just got together with the Republicans to have the biggest Pentagon budget in the history, $717 billion. These are the things they get together on. This is the things. So you mean like those? I don't think she means like those things.
You know, I got to say, though, Jimmy, nothing is more inspiring than having the same background music they play when you're on hold on a customer service line. That's awesome. We thank you for holding here at the Democratic Party. Your right to a democracy is important to us.
Boom, 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 boom. So now let's play it again, and we will stop and start it. Like I like.
Big news. The DNC just enacted the biggest reforms to our presidential nominating process in decades.
Decades. That's good because decades is how long you guys have been in decline.
These reforms will grow the Democratic Party, increase voting participation, rebuild trust.
Rebuild trust. Wow. You wouldn't have to rebuild trust if you didn't cheat the progressive and Bernie Sanders in the primary. That shouldn't even be a thing. Rebuild trust. You know, because what we said in open court, that we don't have to actually listen to the voters, and we don't, and we could make it all up in a cigar smoke-filled room. That's amazing. Okay.
And put our next Democratic presidential nominee in the strongest position possible to...
Oh, the strongest position possible for the Democratic nominee. Does that still include propping up horrible people like Donald Trump and Ted Cruz?
They haven't said yet. They're not sure.
Is that what you mean by the best possible position? Because that's what the Hillary Clinton meant. The Pied Piper strategy.
There are 3 big changes we've made, and here's the deal on them. Number 1. We're ensuring the will of the grassroots determines our party's nominee by reducing the role that superdelegates have over our presidential nominating process.
We're reducing the role. We're reducing the influence of superdelegates. They're reducing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting rid of them. They're reducing it. Again, how many superdelegates does the Republican Party have? 0. Hey, we're a bakery, and we're ensuring the finest quality bread possible by reducing the amounts of mold that we allow in each loaf. We're reducing the amount of mold. We're not getting rid of it because some people like it. We can't be disrespectful to the super mold spores. We're reducing the influence, and I told you. I think this was all smoke and mirrors. What I think the superdelegates aren't going to vote on the first ballot. I'm telling you, there's no way they're going to allow progressives to take over the party. So what I told you before, what my theory is, well, what's going to stop Elizabeth Warren from running? She's already looks like she's running. So it'll be Elizabeth and Bernie splitting the progressive vote. And then we'll have some corporatists like Kamala Harris or a Cory Booker or a Joe Biden. And so nobody gets it on the first round. It'll be like a 3-way split. So nobody gets it on the first round. They got to go to the second round. Superdelegates pick Cory Booker. And they tell you you're a racist if you don't like him, right? That's what they'll do.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just don't like corporatists. I voted for Barack Obama twice. I would vote for Nina Turner, Ben Jealous. You know, there's lots of African Americans I'm very fond of. And would love the opportunity to vote for them. I wish Cornel West would run for something.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So let's get back to this.
Now, superdelegates will refrain from voting on the first presidential nominating ballot, empowering the grassroots and removing any doubt about respecting the will of the people.
I still have a doubt. Because superdelegates still exist and everything. So I still have a bit of a doubt. Do you have a doubt, Rod?
Yeah. That was a bit of a leading part there in the video. Like, we're removing all doubt now. They're reduced.
You didn't remove all doubt. You reduced the doubt a little. We're reducing the doubt as much as we can while still remaining corrupt. This is, okay.
Number 2, we're working to get more states that hold primaries and states that hold caucuses to make them more accessible.
So now watch how they couch this. So I know that caucuses are actually more beneficial for Bernie Sanders. So they got rid of those. They're trying to get rid of them, and they're doing things to encourage more primaries. So they only have so much control over the states, what the parties do, but they're making it. Watch how they couch it.
For some states, caucuses are the only method available to allocate national convention delegates. But caucuses can present challenges for voters, such as seniors, shift workers, students, members of the military, and parents of young children who are pressed for time due to other responsibilities. Our reforms recommend that states take steps to make caucuses as accessible as possible, including offering absentee voting for voters who can't make the caucus in person, and better processes for tracking ballots in case a recount is needed.
So now here's a funny thing. No, I actually agree with that. I think primaries are better than caucuses, except you have to keep this in mind. Caucuses are more beneficial to progressives for whatever reason they were for Bernie Sanders. Because you have to be really excited to come out to a caucus. You have to be into it, right? And so people were into Bernie. People not so into Hillary. So...
Well, I can tell you this from firsthand experience, because when I lived in Washington State, I think they still caucus up there. I'm assuming they do, but when I lived there, that they did. And during 2008, a lot of the people that spoke on behalf of the lesser known candidates, like Dennis Kucinich, somebody spoke on him. I was one of the few people in the Kucinich camp. We swayed more undecided people because we were really hammering home policy and stuff like that, when the person that spoke for Hillary basically just said, "Oh, sorry about Iraq, but she's nice now." Like that was it. Mm-hmm. So nobody was like, "Yeah, I think this person from Ohio sounds really cool, this Kucinich guy." So, I mean, I can see how a caucus, when you have someone that's really more policy focused, ends up winning more people over because you're talking about it with members of your community in a forum where everybody listens.
So So it looks like a bit of a switch. So they're couching it as that we're helping working people and seniors and blah blah. And you know what? I'm actually for that. I think if it increases participation. I remember when I was in Des Moines, Iowa, they had caucus, and I was at a Perkins having a country club omelet, and I asked the waitress. I said, "So you're going to caucus?" She said, "No, I have to work." And I was like, what do they do about all the people who are working right now? All the bartenders, all the second and third shift people, what do they do? They don't get to participate. So now they're trying to make it, well, if they can't participate, at least you have to give them an absentee ballot. And I'm all for that.
Well, I prefer, I prefer regular primaries over caucuses, too. I'm just saying I could see how a caucus might favor progressives.
Yes, it does favor progressives. Yeah. And what I'm saying is, so even though I agree with it, it hurts progressives. Mm-hmm. But I agree with it because I think it's more fair.
Right.
And okay, so there you go. So that's me being above being a partisan, because partisan, I would go, no, I want more caucuses, but I'm doing the thing I think is actually more fair, which actually hurts my side. But what the Democrats are doing is they're couching that as, look, we reformed. We're doing this for progressives. That, you know what I mean? Like, well, we're going to try to help. It actually helps the establishment to have more primaries than caucuses.
Well, what's interesting, too, is a lot of the issues they bring up, yes, that applies to caucuses, but it also applies to voting in general. So why not go a little further and just say we're going to work on voter suppression?
Right. Okay.
The third reform, and this is a big one, we want to make sure that everyone who wants to vote can vote. So we're recommending that all states offer same-day voter registration and the ability to register as a Democrat to vote in Democratic primaries. The DNC is proud of this progress we've made, and we're committed to making 2020.
So let me just say, those are their big three reforms. The first one came directly from Bernie Sanders, get rid of superdelegates. That's the first one. And they didn't even get rid of them. They just reduced their influence. By the way, they can still vote for the vice president on the first ballot and lots of other stuff. So they have the power of 10,000 voters, one person. So that's the first thing. That came right. That didn't come from the committee. That didn't come from the party. That didn't come from Tom Perez. That came from Bernie Sanders. Get rid of the superdelegates voting. So there's that. And then the other two are just suggestions. Like that thing about where we encourage you to do primaries instead of caucuses. That's just a suggestion. A, it helps the establishment and hurts the progressives. And B, it's just a suggestion. And the third thing...
And this is a big one. We want to make sure that everyone who wants to vote can vote. So we're recommending that all states offer same-day voter registration.
Also a recommendation.
Also just a recommendation. We're recommending. That's nice that they're recommending it. But again, these aren't real reforms. That's not a reform if all you can do is recommend that other bodies reform themselves. That's what they're saying. We're recommending reforms, but you can't make it happen. You know, and if you want to vote in New York, you have to, if you want to vote in the next election in New York, you would have, as a Democrat in the primary, you would have had to register in 1943. And that's before the World War ended. So how would you know? So yeah, it's like some crazy 9 month out you have to register. I forget exactly what it is. I think it's 9 months. So that, again, this is just a suggestion. So that's the first one. Came right from Bernie Sanders, and they didn't do it all the way. They just did a half measure. They don't allow the superdelegates to vote on the first ballot just for the presidential, but they can still vote for lots of other stuff. And then the second two are just suggestions, right?
Ability to register as a Democrat to vote in Democratic primaries. The DNC is proud of this progress we've made.
So that's it. So they make it sound like, hey, we did it. We're all reformed. Because they're not fully reformed. These are just they want you to make you think, hey, we did it. With Bernie, we listened. No more cheating, and everything's better. It's not. I don't know if you guys remember this. DNC will take fossil fuel money after all. They voted 2 months ago to ban fossil fuel money at the DNC, and then they, in secret, reversed it. So, by the way, any of these reforms, they can reverse in secret.
Just like they did with Obama's reforms before that.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing they don't talk about is this little new rule by the DNC. Now, I don't think you can read that because it's coming up all blurry for some reason. But I'll tell you what it says. This is the new rule that the DNC came up with, that if you want to run as a presidential candidate in the Democratic primary, you have to sign this paper. And in this paper, it says that the chairperson of the DNC gets to determine if you are sufficiently loyal to the party. And he alone will get, he or she, well, right now it's a he, will decide if you are sufficiently loyal and a good enough Democrat to run. The people don't get to decide. Why not put him on the ticket and see if people vote for him? What are you afraid of? This is aimed directly at Bernie Sanders.
And doesn't sound culty at all.
Right? Sounds creepy.
It sounds really creepy.
Sounds really creepy, and that's what this is. And this is aimed directly at Bernie Sanders. So again, they don't talk about that in that video, the Democrats. They don't say, oh, by the way, we had some stuff that's really pointed at screwing progressives. So so again, they're not, they do one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah, and that's especially a very big slap in the face thing to say, too, because you are largely an inferior good. What I mean by that is many people still associate with the Democratic Party because they feel they have nowhere else to go. So now you're gonna play this party loyalty game.
Right. They don't. And by the way, people don't have. So one step forward, we've reduced the influence of superdelegates. Two steps backwards, taking fossil fuel money, and then they got this new stupid goofy rule. And maybe that's why Bernie didn't stop those fast tracking of the judges in the Senate, because all it took was one senator to stop it, and nobody did. And so this is how they keep Bernie in line. This is how they say, Bernie, you got to go along with the party when we tell you. Then you can't make us look bad, and you can't blah 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 blah. And you certainly can't primary corporate Democrats, which he's not doing. Bernie's endorsing people who are not run. The people he's endorsing are progressives, but they're not running against corporate Democrats who are already. So that's the big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's remember in all of this that we've only primaried. When I say we, I mean progressives have only primaried one corporate Democrat so far, Joe Crowley. So again, I don't want to dampen the enthusiasm for progressive politics, but Bernie seems to be putting everything in that basket of him getting elected.
Yeah,
because the Democratic Party is staying the same, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. We're not getting rid of those corporate Democrats. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, and it's tough because you get happy about progressive victories, or I do. Like I'm happy when it happens, but then I have this little inkling concern because I worry, gee, we only have so much energy to spend,
right? And
is this the right way to do it? I wish I wish all this energy was going into a new party.
Me too.
But right now, that's not an option. So it's sort of you find yourself in a struggle mentally.
Well, why can't we do things like, why can't we have a thing where we have a movement that says cut the military budget in half and end the wars, and we march in the streets and we make that have a demand no matter who's in government, because even if it was a Democrat, we'd have to do the same thing, or Trump. So, I mean, like that's what I think.
I think a lot of people are going that route, too.
Yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of people,
outside
the party framework, outside of electoral politics in general, and just forming task forces and causes. And sometimes those causes and movements can involve some electoral politics, but, it's circumstantial what it involves. It might just involve stuff on the local level, and that's part of the task force, i.e. what Gail McLaughlin pulled off in Richmond.
Right. Okay. So the Democrats are all reformed. They're all fixed. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are, you're probably not. It only takes a second to check, and then you have to ring that bell so they send you a notification when we drop a new video. Otherwise, they won't tell you when we drop new videos. And if you like our show, please help support it. Become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material every week, and we give a live stream. We do a live stream every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time when you could ask us questions and we answer them back. Thanks for your support.